Imagine witnessing something extraordinary, something that defies explanation. A strange light in the sky, an object moving with impossible speed. You tell your story, perhaps to a friend or local authority, or even a U investigator. And then, they arrive. Not the authorities you expected, but strange men in black suits, silent and unnerving. Their presence leaving an indelible chill. These are the Men in Black, or M.I.B as they are often called, figures who have haunted the fringes of UFO lore for decades, stepping out of the shadows to silence witnesses, confiscate evidence, and erase memories. For many, the term Men in Black conjures images of Hollywood blockbusters, sleek suits, and alien technology. But the chilling reality predates the silver screen, rooted in countless, consistent real-world reports from terrified witnesses. These are not fictional characters. They are persistent, terrifying phenomenon, reported by individuals across the globe. This video will delve deep into the most credible, documented encounters with these enigmatic figures, separating the sensational fiction from the truly unsettling facts. We will explore 5 cases where ordinary people faced extraordinary intimidation, where the line between reality and the unknown blurred, and where the Men in Black left behind a trail of fear and unanswered questions. Prepare to question everything you thought you knew about what lurks in the shadows of our world. Our first deep dive into the chilling world of the Men in Black takes us to the quiet, unassuming town of Old Orchard Beach, Maine, in the year 1976. The central figure in this unsettling account is Dr. Herbert Hopkins, a respected and well-known UFO researcher. Dr. Hopkins was not a sensationalist. He was a serious, meticulous investigator, known for his calm demeanor and scientific approach to unexplained phenomena. His research had led him to a particularly intriguing case involving a local family who claimed to have had a close encounter with a UFO and its occupants. He was deeply engrossed in this investigation, meticulously documenting every detail, when his own life took an unexpected and terrifying turn. It was a typical evening, around 9 o'clock, when Dr. Hopkins received a phone call. The voice on the other end was peculiar, flat, and monotone, claiming to be an officer from a New Jersey UFO organization. The caller stated that he was flying to Maine that very night and needed to discuss Dr. Hopkins' ongoing investigation. Dr. Hopkins, accustomed to late-night calls in his line of work, agreed to the meeting. He hung up the phone, and almost immediately, before he could even process the brevity of the call, there was a knock at his door. This was the first unsettling detail. The caller had given no indication of being so close, let alone arriving instantaneously. Opening the door, Dr. Hopkins was confronted by a sight that would forever be etched in his memory. Standing on his porch was a man dressed in a perfectly tailored dark suit, complete with a dark tie, white shirt, and a black fedora. His appearance was strikingly anachronistic, almost like something out of a 1950s movie. But it was the man's physical characteristics that truly disturbed Dr. Hopkins. He was described as being very pale, almost albino, with thin lips and a strange, almost doll-like quality to his skin. His eyes were hidden behind dark sunglasses even though it was night. Most unnervingly, his voice, when he finally spoke, was the same flat, emotionless monotone from the phone call, as if he were speaking through a voice synthesizer or had no vocal cords. The man introduced himself as a representative of an organization that studied UFOs and stated he was there to discuss Dr. Hopkins' UFO research. He walked past Dr. Hopkins without invitation, entering the house and making his way directly to the living room, as if he were intimately familiar with the layout. He sat down, and the conversation began. What followed was a chilling display of knowledge and intimidation. The man in black began to recount precise details of the UFO case Dr. Hopkins was investigating, information that had not been publicly released, and that only Dr. Hopkins and the involved family knew. He even mentioned specific names and events, demonstrating an unnerving level of intimate knowledge about the ongoing private investigation. Dr. Hopkins was stunned. How could this stranger know so much? Then came the truly bizarre and terrifying moment. The man in black began to speak about the importance of destroying UFO evidence. He picked up a penny from Dr. Hopkins' coffee table and held it in his hand. He then instructed Dr. Hopkins to watch closely. As Dr. Hopkins stared, the penny began to shimmer, then blur, and finally, it simply vanished from the man's hand. It did not drop or roll away. It dematerialized. A moment later, the man opened his hand and the penny reappeared, seemingly out of nowhere. He repeated this impossible feat, making the coin vanish and reappear several times. The message was clear and unspoken. We know what you are doing, we can do things you cannot comprehend, and we can make things disappear. The man in black then delivered his chilling directive. He told Dr. Hopkins that his research into UFOs was dangerous, and that he must cease all investigations and destroy all his files, notes, and evidence related to UFOs. He warned Dr. Hopkins that if he failed to comply, there would be severe consequences for him and his family. The threat was delivered in the same flat, emotionless tone, yet it carried an immense weight of menace. After delivering his warning, the man in black stood up, turned, and walked out of the house, disappearing into the night as silently and mysteriously as he had arrived. Dr. Hopkins, a man of science and logic, was left profoundly shaken. The encounter defied all rational explanation. The instantaneous arrival, the unsettling appearance, the intimate knowledge of his private receipt, and the impossible dematerialization of the coin all pointed to something far beyond human understanding. True to his word, and out of genuine fear for his safety and that of his family, Dr. Hopkins abandoned his UFO research. He destroyed all his files, notes, and evidence, effectively erasing years of dedicated work. The experience left him traumatized, and he rarely spoke about it publicly. Though, he did recount the story to a few trusted colleagues, including the well-known UFO researcher John Keel. The case of Dr. Herbert Hopkins is considered one of the most compelling and disturbing accounts of a man in black encounter because of Dr. Hopkins' credibility and the sheer impossibility of the events he witnessed. It paints a picture of entities that are not merely government agents, but something far more enigmatic, with capabilities that defy the known laws of physics, and a clear agenda to suppress information about UFOs, often through psychological intimidation and displays of important power. It leaves us with a profound question. Who were these visitors, and what were they so desperate? Our next chilling encounter takes us to the serene, windswept landscape of Burrow Marsh, near Solway Firth in Cumbria, England, in the summer of 1964. This case is particularly compelling because it involves photographic evidence and a subsequent visit by two highly unusual individuals. The central figure is Jim Templeton, a respected firefighter from Carlisle. He was enjoying a family outing with his wife and young daughter Elizabeth. Templeton, an amateur photographer, was capturing the scenic beauty of the marsh and, more importantly, taking pictures of his 5-year-old daughter. On that bright, sunny day, Templeton took 3 photographs of Elizabeth. In one of the pictures, taken from behind his daughter, a truly inexplicable figure appeared, standing directly behind Elizabeth, in what appeared to be a white, bulky suit with a dark visor. It was a mysterious spaceman. Templeton swore that at the time he took the photograph, there was absolutely no one else in the frame, let alone a person in such an odd suit. He had a clear view of the area, and the only other people present were his wife, who was standing further away, and 2 elderly women who were also some distance off. The figure in the photograph was not visible to the naked eye when the picture was taken. When Templeton had the film developed, he was astonished by what he saw. The figure was undeniably there, clearly visible in the background, looking directly at the camera. The image quickly gained international attention, published in newspapers around the world, and became known as the Solway Firth spaceman photograph. Experts from Kodak, the film manufacturer, examined the negative and confirmed that it had not been tampered with. They found no evidence of a hoax or double exposure. The photograph was genuine, and the figure remained an enigma. The widespread publicity surrounding the photograph soon attracted unwanted attention to Jim Templeton. A few days after the picture made headlines, Templeton received an unexpected visit at his home. 2 men arrived, dressed in dark formal suits. Their appearance was strikingly similar to the descriptions given by other witnesses of men in black. They were tall, gaunt, and had an unsettling, almost emotionless demeanor. Their skin was pale, and their eyes, though not hidden by sunglasses in this instance, seemed to lack warmth or normal human expression. The men introduced themselves only by numbers. One referred to himself as number 9, and the other as number 11. This bizarre form of identification immediately put Templeton on edge. They drove a black Jaguar, a luxury car that seemed out of place for what appeared to be government investigators. They questioned Templeton extensively about the photograph, but their questions were far from typical. They seemed less interested in the UFO aspect and more focused on the weather conditions that day, the exact location, and even the type of film Templeton had used. Their inquiries were often repetitive and nonsensical, almost as if they were trying to confuse or disorient him. The most unnerving part of the interrogation came when they pressed Templeton to admit that he had simply photographed a man in a white suit. Templeton steadfastly maintained that no one else was present when he took the picture. The men they made a series of increasingly bizarre demands. They asked him to accompany them to the site where he took the photograph, and when he refused, they became more insistent. They also made veiled threats, implying that his family could be in danger if he did not cooperate or change his story. Throughout the encounter, their voices remained flat and monotone, devoid of inflection, adding to the unsettling atmosphere. Templeton described feeling a profound sense of unease and psychological pressure during their visit. He felt as though they were trying to manipulate his memory, to convince him that he had simply made a mistake, or that his eyes had deceived him. They wanted him to recant his statement, to dismiss the mysterious figure as something mundane and explainable. Eventually, after failing to get Templeton to change his account, the 2 men abruptly left, disappearing as mysteriously as they had arrived. Jim Templeton never saw them again. The experience left him deeply disturbed, reinforcing his belief that the figure in his photograph was truly anomalous and that there were powerful forces at play trying to suppress the truth about such phenomena. The Solway Firth spaceman photograph and Jim Templeton's subsequent encounter with number 9 and number 11 remain one of the most credible and unsettling Men in Black cases on record. It highlights a consistent pattern: the appearance of these enigmatic figures shortly after a significant UFO or anomalous event. Their strange, almost robotic behavior, their attempts to intimidate witnesses, and their clear agenda to control the narrative and silence those who have seen too much. It forces us to ask, who were these men, and why were they so desperate to prevent the world from believing what Jim Templeton's camera had captured? Our journey into the unsettling world of the Men in Black continues with a case that blurs the lines between intimidation and outright supernatural intrusion. This account comes from 1968, involving the Robinson family, who lived in a seemingly ordinary apartment. Their terrifying ordeal began not with a knock at the door, but with a series of events that would leave them psychologically scarred and questioning the very fabric of reality. The Robinson family had recently endured a harrowing UFO abduction experience. They had witnessed strange lights in the sky, felt a paralyzing force, and later recalled fragmented, disturbing memories of being taken aboard an unknown craft. Like many UFO witnesses, they were left confused, frightened, and unsure of whom to trust. They were trying to process the inexplicable, attempting to make sense of an event that shattered their understanding of the world. It was during this vulnerable period that the Men in Black made their appearance, but in a manner far more disturbing than a simple visit. One evening, as the family sat together in their living room, still reeling from their recent encounter, they heard a faint, almost imperceptible hum. Suddenly, a man materialized inside their apartment. The door was locked, the windows were sealed, yet there he stood, as if he had simply teleported through the walls. He was dressed in a dark, form-fitting black turtleneck and dark trousers. A departure from the typical suit and tie, his eyes were hidden behind dark glasses, and his face was pale, almost gaunt, with an unsettling, blank expression. The man did not speak immediately. Instead, he simply stood there, observing the terrified family. The Robinsons later described feeling an intense pressure in their minds, as if he was probing their thoughts, reading their deepest fears and memories. This silent, telepathic intrusion was perhaps even more terrifying than any spoken threat. It suggested a being with capabilities far beyond human, one that could not only bypass physical barriers, but also invade the sanctity of their minds. When he finally did speak, his voice was flat, devoid of emotion, and seemed to resonate directly inside their heads rather than through the air. He did not introduce himself, nor did he explain his impossible entry. Instead, he began to recount details of their UFO abduction experience, information that only the family knew. He described their memories with chilling accuracy, confirming their worst fears that their encounter was real and that this entity knew everything about it. His message was stark and unequivocal. They were to remain silent. They were not to speak of their UFO experience to anyone, not to friends, not to authorities, and certainly not to UFO investigators. He warned them that if they dared to share their story, there would be severe and unsuspected consequences. The threat was delivered with a cold, absolute certainty that left no room for doubt. The Man in Black seemed to possess an intimate understanding of their psychological state, using their recent trauma and fear against them. After delivering his chilling warning, the man did not walk out. He simply dematerialized, vanishing as mysteriously as he had appeared, leaving behind no trace of his presence other than the lingering scent of ozone and an overwhelming sense of dread. The Robinsons were left in a state of profound shock and psychological terror that lasted for days, weeks, and even months. The experience instilled in them a deep-seated fear, a constant anxiety that they were being watched, and a chilling understanding that their lives were no longer entirely their own. This case is particularly disturbing because it goes beyond simple intimidation. The Man in Black's ability to teleport into a locked apartment and seemingly read minds suggests a non-human origin or technology far beyond our comprehension. It highlights the potential for these entities to exert control not just through threats, but through displays of impossible power that shatter a witness's sense of security and sanity. The Robinson family's encounter serves as a stark reminder that the Men in Black phenomenon is not always about men in suits, but about terrifying, intrusive forces determined to suppress the truth of anomalous events, often by creating a psychological prison for those who have seen too much. Our journey through the most credible Men in Black encounters now brings us to a pivotal case from 1957, one that vividly illustrates the M.I.B's official intimidating presence and their relentless pursuit of evidence suppression. The setting is the iconic Niagara Falls, a place of natural wonder that, for a brief, unsettling period, became the backdrop for a truly anomalous event. It was a crisp, clear autumn day in 1957, a day like any other for the thousands of tourists and locals who flocked to witness the majestic power of Niagara Falls. The air was filled with the roar of the water, the excited chatter of visitors, and the occasional click of a camera. Suddenly, the usual sounds were momentarily overshadowed by gasps and shouts. High above the Horseshoe Falls, suspended silently against the bright blue sky, appeared an object that defied all conventional explanation. Multiple witnesses, from various vantage points on both the American and Canadian sides of the falls, reported seeing a large, metallic, disc-shaped object. It was described as being highly reflective, almost mirror-like, glinting in the sunlight, and it moved with an impossible grace, performing maneuvers that no known aircraft of the era could replicate. It hovered, darted, and then remained motionless for several minutes, seemingly observing the spectacle below. Panic and excitement rippled through the crowds. People pointed, shouted, and some instinctively reached for their cameras. Among those who witnessed the UFO, and crucially managed to photograph it, was a hotel manager from a prominent establishment overlooking the falls. This manager, whose identity has been carefully guarded over the years to protect his privacy and safety, was a reputable individual, known for his calm demeanor and professional conduct. He was not prone to flights of fancy or sensationalism. Armed with his camera, he quickly snapped several photographs of the hovering object, convinced he had captured undeniable proof of something truly extraordinary, a moment that would surely alter humanity's understanding of its place in the universe. The manager, brimming with excitement and a sense of historical significance, immediately took his film to be developed. He bypassed the usual commercial outlets, opting for a trusted, private developer to ensure the integrity of his groundbreaking images. He was eager to share his discovery with the world, anticipating the global impact his photographs would have. However, his excitement was short-lived, replaced by a profound sense of dread. Soon after the photographs were developed, and before he could make them public, or even show them to more than a handful of close associates, he received an unexpected and chilling visit. Two men arrived at his hotel, requesting to speak with him. Their appearance was strikingly uniform and almost anachronistic. They were dressed in dark, impeccably tailored suits, complete with dark ties, white shirts, and wide-brimmed fedoras that cast shadows over their faces. Their complexions were pale, almost pasty, and their movements were stiff, almost robotic. Their eyes, though visible, seemed cold and devoid of human warmth, lacking the natural sparkle or expression one would expect. Their voices were flat, monotone, and delivered with an unsettling lack of inflection, as if they were reading from a script or speaking through an artificial voice box. The men did not introduce themselves by name, nor did they present any official identification. They simply stated that they were government agents, and that they were there regarding the UFO photographs he had taken. Their demeanor was not overtly aggressive, but it was undeniably authoritative, almost menacing, giving the distinct impression that they were not to be questioned or disobeyed. What was most unsettling was their immediate and precise knowledge. They knew he had taken photographs, they knew he had taken developed, and they even seemed to know the exact content of the images. This level of immediate and precise information, without any public disclosure of the event or the photos, was deeply unsettling. How could they have known so quickly and with such detail about a private act? The agents then made their demand, which was delivered as an instruction rather than a request. They insisted that the hotel manager hand over all the film and negatives related to the UFO sighting. They explained, in their calm but firm manner, that the photographs were a matter of national security and that their public release would cause widespread panic, confusion, and possibly even international incidents. They implied that the manager's cooperation was not optional and that resistance would be futile and ill-advised. The manager, a man accustomed to dealing with all manner of people, felt an overwhelming sense of intimidation. He felt he had no choice before leaving. The men in black delivered a stern and chilling warning. They informed the manager that he was to forget everything he had seen, both the UFO and their visit. They made it explicitly clear that he was never to speak of the UM or their presence to anyone under any circumstances. They warned him that failure to comply would result in severe and unspecified consequences, not just for him, but for his family and his livelihood. The warning was delivered with an unnerving lack of emotion, yet it carried an undeniable weight of power and absolute authority, leaving no doubt about the seriousness of their intent. The two men then departed as quickly and silently as they had arrived, disappearing into the bustling hotel lobby as if they were never there. The hotel manager was left profoundly shaken and terrified, a respected professional reduced to a state of psychological distress. The photographs of the Niagara Falls UFO were never seen again by the public. Despite numerous inquiries and investigations by UFO researchers and journalists over the years, the government consistently denied any involvement in the incident or the confiscation of the photos. The official stance was, and remains, that no such event occurred, and no such photographs were ever taken. This case is a classic example of the Men in Black phenomenon and their consistent modus operandi. It highlights several key characteristics: their immediate appearance after significant UFO sighting, their seemingly impossible knowledge of private details, their uniform and unsettling appearance, their use of intimidation and veiled threats, and their primary objective, the confiscation and suppression of evidence. The Niagara Falls UFO incident, with its multiple witnesses and the photographic evidence that vanished without a trace, stands as a chilling testament to the Men in Black's apparent ability to control information and enforce silence, leaving behind only questions and a lingering sense of unease about who these mysterious figures truly are, and what they are so determined to keep hidden from the public eye. We have explored several chilling encounters with the mysterious Men in Black, each one adding a layer to their enigmatic and terrifying presence. But now we arrive at the case widely considered to be the very genesis of the modern M.I.B phenomenon, the incident that first etched the image of these dark-suited figures into the collective consciousness of UFO lore. This was the Maury Island incident of 1947, an event that occurred just days before the famous Kenneth Arnold sighting, which popularized the term flying saucer, and profoundly shaped the early understanding of unexplained aerial phenomena. The year was 1947, and the date was June 21st. Harold Dahl, a harbor patrolman, was on his boat near Maury Island in Puget Sound, Washington, collecting logs with his son and their dog. It was a routine day until the skies above them erupted with the impossible. Dahl witnessed 6 large, donut-shaped, metallic objects flying overhead. One of the objects appeared to be in distress, wobbling erratically. Suddenly, it ejected what looked like thousands of pieces of light, metallic debris, which rained down onto the water and the surrounding area. Some of the debris struck Dahl's boat, injuring his son's arm and tragically killing their dog. The material, later described as black slag-like rock, was hot to the touch and left scorch marks. Shaken and terrified, Dahl immediately reported the incident to his supervisor, Fred Chrisman. Together, they returned to the site to collect samples of the strange debris. The incident was bizarre enough on its own, a terrifying close encounter with unknown technology. But what happened the very next morning would elevate this case from a mere UFO sighting to the foundational story of the Men in Black. On June 22, 1947, Harold Dahl was approached by a man dressed in a dark suit. The man was described as being tall, well-dressed, and possessing an unsettlingly calm and deliberate manner. His appearance was strikingly similar to the descriptions that would later become synonymous with the M.I.B: a dark suit, a pale complexion, and almost emotionless demeanor. He did not introduce himself by name, nor did he present any credentials. What transpired next was truly chilling. The Man in Black began to recount every single detail of Dahl's UFO sighting from the previous day. He described the number of objects, their shape, the debris, the injury to Dahl's son, and even the death of his dog. Every precise detail, every minute aspect of the terrifying encounter was laid out by the stranger. This was information that Harold Dahl had not yet shared with anyone beyond his supervisor, Fred Chrisman. The fact that this man knew everything, down to the most intimate and private details of the incident, was profoundly unsettling. It suggested an immediate, almost omniscient surveillance, a level of knowledge that defied any logical explanation. How could a complete stranger know such specifics so quickly? After meticulously detailing the incident, the Man in Black had delivered a chilling warning. His voice was flat, devoid of warmth, yet carried an undeniable weight of authority and menace. He looked directly at Harold Dahl and uttered words that would forever echo in the annals of UFO investigations. "What I have said to you is a warning. If you love your family, you will keep silent." The message was clear. Speak of this incident, and your family will suffer the consequences. The threat was not just implied, it was explicit and deeply personal. Harold Dahl, a man who had just witnessed something truly extraordinary and terrifying, was now faced with an even greater fear: the safety of his loved ones. The encounter left him deeply traumatized and effectively silent. He understood that this was not a request, but an order, delivered by an entity that possessed impossible knowledge and the apparent power to enforce its will. The Maury Island incident, and specifically Harold Dahl's encounter with this mysterious man, is pivotal because it established the core characteristics of the Men in Black phenomenon. It was the first widely reported instance of a witness being directly threatened and intimidated into silence after a UFO sighting. It introduced the archetype, the dark suit, the strange, almost robotic demeanor, the impossible knowledge of private events, and the clear agenda to suppress information. This case laid the groundwork for countless subsequent reports, solidifying the M.I.B as a terrifying, shadowy force operating outside the known parameters of government or human agency. It raised the fundamental question that continues to haunt researchers. Who are these figures, and why are they so determined to keep the truth about UFOs hidden from humanity? We've journeyed through some of the most compelling and chilling encounters with the Men in Black. From Dr. Herbert Hopkins's dematerializing coin and the psychological terror inflicted by a being who could read his thoughts, to Jim Templeton's impossible spaceman photograph and the subsequent visit from number 9 and number 11. We delved into the Robinson family's terrifying experience with a telepathic intruder in their locked apartment and the Niagara Falls incident, where photographic evidence vanished at the hands of government agents. Finally, we explored the foundational case of Harold Dahl and the very first man in black who issued a chilling personal threat. Each of these accounts, spanning decades and diverse locations, paints a consistent, unsettling picture. Mysterious figures, often in dark suits, appearing after UFO or anomalous events, demonstrating impossible knowledge, strange behaviors, and an unwavering determination to suppress information and silence witnesses. So the ultimate question remains, and we want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Who are the men in black? Are they government agents from a secret program, tasked with maintaining public ignorance? Are they the aliens themselves, in disguise, walking among us, ensuring their presence remains hidden? Or are they something else entirely? Interdimensional beings, thought forms, or perhaps even a manifestation of our collective fear of the unknown? Let us know what you believe. If you found this deep dive into the M.I.B phenomenon as fascinating and unsettling as we did, please hit that like button, share this video with fellow truth seekers, and most importantly, subscribe to our channel for more explorations into the unexplained. Your support helps us uncover these mysteries,